Hello guys and welcome back to another Hunter's Prestige fitment video. On today's video we're going to show you how to fit fixed side steps to your new Defender. We fitted hundreds of side steps in the past, and all the years that we've been fitting side steps to customers' cars, this has been the best product we've had. So here's a couple of reasons why we think this is the best product over everything else on the market. Obviously from the visual side you can see these are really nice premium looking side steps. The actual weight of them as well, they're very high quality, and you can tell because they're all metal. We've seen aftermarket suppliers in the past have plastic tread plates which crack on impact. They're all painted in high gloss black, they're treated metal, and they're also painted in several layers of gloss black paint just to make sure they withstand any chips and also any corrosion that will happen on them side steps, which we know is a standard thing with aftermarket suppliers on the market, as well as some Land Rover genuine ones. Another reason why we think these are the best product on the market is we fitted hundreds and hundreds of sets of side steps, not only on customers' cars, we've also sent them out, and we know how much of a pain it can be sometimes when something just doesn't fit right. This is a kit that we've manufactured ourselves, and we've actually tailored the fitting kits and all the bolts, different things supplied to actually meet our customers' needs and also make it easier for us. So one of those things is actually all the bolts. We've actually changed the Land Rover genuine specified bolts to actual 2 sockets. So you now only need a 10mm and you need a 13mm socket. We do this for ease. You don't want to have loads of different tool bits available, as well as different socket heads transferring over all the time. We found from experience having 2 different sockets, 2 different bolts was the easiest way to go. Our brackets sit flush. We've tested loads of brackets in the past to find the best fitting ones, and they're also powder coated and heat treated, so make sure they will last and they're high torque. We also supply you with replacement clips. Now these clips are very good. They're very similar to Land Rover genuine ones that's supplied when you purchase a set of side steps from them. These are really good quality compared to other hard plastic clips on the market. We've tried loads before in the past, and these have been the best ones we've had so far. We also supply you a Hunter's Prestige trim tool, which is very strong and is not your cheap plastic trim tool. So let's get into how to actually fit these fixed side steps to your Defender. Now this isn't necessarily the Land Rover specified way of how to fit them, but this is, from our experience, the best way and the most efficient way to fit the side steps, the Hunter's Prestige way. Okay, so the tools required for today's job, you're going to need a metal trim tool, or alternatively a plastic one that we supply, 13mm and a 10mm socket. You're going to need a multi-tool, an electric or hand ratchet, and also a torque wrench. Okay, first step, using the 10mm socket, there is a small bolt underneath here which attaches to this rubber mud flap. Now you can fully remove this, but what we do is only take this front bolt out. So if you want to take that out first. Next up, with the trim tool that we supply, or alternatively one that you prefer to use, what we're going to do is actually release these black clips just underneath this sill panel. Now these run all along the underneath of that sill. Obviously if you've got a 90 or a 110, there's different quantities, but make sure you've removed the one shown. There is one just at the front, so you can leave that one right at the front, just before the mud flap. So what you want to do is release that top part of that clip and then take off the second part underneath. This is what it looks like. So this is the top part and the bottom part. We do advise to keep these all together. They do go a little bit walkabouts if you don't keep your eyes on them, so we always put them in a box. Okay, open up both the doors. And the next step is to actually release this part of the wheel arch. So if you've got the thicker wheel arches, this is exactly the same. They won't be taped at the top. And you want to release this clip on the back of this sill. So put the trim tool in, and twist it, and that will release that and break it. Don't worry that you've broken it, because we provide you with spares. And then you want to use that trim tool and just go along that sill, just releasing all those clips. And do that at the front as well. Now it's interesting to note we're not actually going to be fully removing this sill. There's actually two clips at the front and also the clip underneath that hold it on. So all we're going to do is just release that. So we're going to pull this rubber mat or mud flap here, which will just allow us to pull this sill off like so. And we're going to be cutting two sections from this sill. So you want to line up these two holes, and basically on the sill there will be a in groove to where you're supposed to cut. So for cut and reference, the 110 and the 130 should have the same cuts on this sill, but here is the diagram for the 110 and 130. Also here's the other side, and diagram for a 90. You'll notice that they are in slightly different places because the brackets sit a little bit closer in, and here's the other side also. So for visual purposes, what you want to do is just keep an eyeball on these holes on the chassis and just line up where it's going to go on that sill. This is the reason why we don't fully take it off, so we can line it up and then pull this under shield down a little bit. And if you wanted to use a chalk pen just for reference, we're just going to go about just under an inch either side of these holes. You can check that on the sill that you're going to be cutting as well, just to make sure the gap there is the same. Okay, now we've marked on the underneath part where we need to be. Now what we're going to do is go underneath the car, and we're just going to measure out how far we need to go here, and that's about 4 centimeters or 4.5 for that bracket. And then we're going to line that up. You can use a ruler, or if you're comfortable with the multi-tool, you can just mark up about 4 centimeters. So we're going to cut the sill first using the multi-tool, just cutting along that line, and it is very close to the front of that sill. And then we're going to cut the underneath. Now you can pry this away a little bit just to make it easier for you to cut, but we are quite experienced. We've cut loads of these before, so we know exactly when to stop. And that is now free to take that part off, which will expose that bolt that we need to take out shortly. And we're just going to cut the front as well. Obviously there is little plastic shavings left on it after that. You can just clean it up with your hand, or alternatively you can debore it. And then again we're going to cut the underneath on this side as well. Like so, and now you can see both the screws, or bolts sorry, that you need to take out. So get your 13mm socket and just release them. We actually provide you with 2 new bolts for both sides of the bracket, or both front and the rear. Let's put the washer on there. These are the largest bolts we supply. And then you want to check your brackets to make sure you've got the front and rear one for the left hand side or the right hand side, whatever side you're working on. They're actually labelled on the brackets, the orientation. Put that bracket up, so we're going to do the rear one first. And what you want to do is just put a couple of threads in with those larger bolts. You don't want to tighten them up all the way. We'll tell you why shortly. Now we're going to do the step down size and put them in with the washer. Now this gap can be quite tight sometimes, so you do need to get the bracket as straight as possible to screw those in. But that should now hold that bracket up just with one screw in, and second one. Tighten those up with a ratchet with a 13mm socket. And now we're going to torque these up to 24 Newton meters. Now they're tightened up, Should look like so currently. At the front, we're going to take that 13mm bolt out again. So these should already be inside your vehicle, or actually attached to the vehicle already. And we're just going to check that front bracket to make sure, again, it is the right orientation for that side. Put those two 13mm bolts in. 13. Get the bolts. I'm just going to put those bolts in the side bracket. Tighten them up. And again, we're going to torque them up to 24 Newton meters. Okay, so now those brackets are on. Next step is we're going to remove the broken clips left on the chassis using a trim tool. We're using a metal one here just to speed up the process, but you can use the plastic one that we supply. We're going to put the sill back on now. So we need to take this clip out here underneath the wheel arch, and we're going to reinsert new clips along that sill all the way, like so. There's a little groove to where they should actually stop as well, but don't worry, when they're in place they will move if they need to. Okay, so now we're going to make sure that you also replace the clip underneath the wheel arch. Sometimes that can be missed. Okay, now we're going to reinstall the sill. What we do is put that underneath the wheel arch and pull that mud flap down just so it's in place. The mud flap should sit inside that sill and then allow you to clip that in place and just reinsert the mud flap. The sill has a retainer to tell you where it needs to go, and then obviously the weather shield goes inside that wheel arch when you reinsert the arch. Make sure it's nicely in place and then click it in. And then you're going to go along the sill and just tap all those clips in all the way along. Now that's done, you can close the doors. And then reinsert the black bungs that we took out originally all the way across. Then don't forget the 10mm bolt that we took out at the start. This can be a bit fiddly because obviously we have removed that sill, but it should go into place. If it doesn't, you just push it a little bit and it will open up that hole. Now we're going to install the step. What we want to do is we want to line up these nutserts on the bottom of the side step with the bottom holes of the side step brackets. The side steps should be labelled left and right, but if the stickers aren't on there, the curve goes inside the vehicle on both sides. Now we're going to install the step to the actual brackets. We're actually not going to tighten up all of these bolts until it's completely in place, like so. So do a couple of threads all the way along with the smaller bolts, and do it on the other side as well. And the reason we didn't tighten up those 13mm is basically to line up these holes. Sometimes they can be a little bit out of place because there is a bit of movement when we tighten up those brackets. So what we do is we leave the larger ones, which will allow us to slightly tap it if it is out of place, like so. And then once we know they're all in line, we're just going to tighten up those smaller bolts. All the way along. On the front brackets and also on the rear as well. Now that's done, we're going to torque them up also. That's at 10 Newton meters. And we can now torque up all of those to make sure they're nice and tight. And with your 13mm socket, you're just going to tighten up those larger bolts, because we're now happy with the placement of that step. I torque them up to 64 Newton meters with a torque wrench. As obviously these are the load bearing bolts. To the front and the rear. We're just going to check it to make sure there's no movement in the actual step itself. There's also no rattle. And when that's all done, you can repeat this process onto the other side. So there you go guys, that is the end of today's fitment video on how to fit the fixed side step to your new Defender. If you have any questions on how to fit this product, please get in contact with our sales team. We'll be more than happy to help with any questions that you have. As always guys, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe and hit that bell notification to stay up to date with what we're doing here at Hunters. See you in the next fitment video.